Blood stained the pristine white sheets of my hospital bed. My husband and my sister weren't looking at me. Their hands were intertwined. As my heart monitor flatlined, I swore I'd make them pay. Then I opened my eyes. It was 2024. I was alive, and revenge was waiting. Pain was my only companion for the last 6 months of my previous life. It gnawed at my stomach, radiated through my back, and left me a hollow, fragile shell of the woman I used to be. The doctors called it acute organ failure, a rare and aggressive degeneration that they couldn't quite explain. I knew better, though. In those final agonizing hours, clarity had finally pierced through the heavy fog of the morphine. My sister Maya had been the one preparing my herbal teas. My husband Liam had been the one insisting I take the experimental dietary supplements from a specialist he found online. Lying in that sterile room at St. Jude's Medical Center. I couldn't even muster the strength to turn my head, but I didn't need to. The glass reflection of the window perfectly mirrored the scene near the door. Liam, my charming, successful architect husband of 4 years, stood with his arms wrapped tightly around Maya's waist. She was resting her head on his shoulder, her hand sliding down to interlock with his. They were smiling. A sick, relieved kind of smile. "How much longer?" Maya whispered, her voice carrying a sickeningly sweet lilt that I had once mistaken for innocence. "Not long, baby," Liam murmured, kissing the top of her head. "Dr. Hayes said her liver is completely gone. By tomorrow it'll be over. The house, the trust fund, everything will transfer to me, and then we can finally be together, without hiding." My heart, already struggling to beat, shattered into a million jagged pieces. My sister, my own flesh and blood, the woman I had protected since our parents passed away. And Liam, the man who had sworn before God to love me in sickness and in health. They hadn't just betrayed me, they had murdered me, slowly, painfully, day by day, cup by cup. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear the IV out of my arm, leap out of that bed, and wrap my hands around their throats. But my lungs betrayed me. A violent coughing fit seized my frail body, bringing up copper-tasting blood. The monitors around me began to shriek a chaotic symphony of alarms. Liam and Maya jumped apart, suddenly playing the roles of the grieving family. Liam rushed to my side, his face twisted into a mask of fake panic. Chloe, hold on!" he yelled, grabbing my cold hand. I stared into his lying, beautiful green eyes. I hated him with a ferocity that defied death. With the last ounce of my strength, I squeezed his hand, not out of love, but out of a desperate, burning promise. "I will destroy you." The edges of my vision turned black. The frantic voices of the nurses faded into a dull hum. And then there was nothing. Sunlight. Blinding golden sunlight pierced through my eyelids. I gasped, shooting up from the mattress, as if I had been submerged underwater. My hands frantically grabbed at my chest, expecting the familiar, agonizing, stabbing pain. There was nothing. My breathing was even. My skin was warm, and the heavy scent of antiseptic was replaced by the crisp aroma of freshly brewed espresso and expensive Tom Ford cologne. I looked around my mind, spinning in a violent vortex of confusion. This wasn't a hospital room. This was the master bedroom of our penthouse on the Upper East Side. The same penthouse I had supposedly bought for Liam and me as a wedding gift. My trembling hands reached for the sleek iPhone resting on the nightstand. The screen lit up. May 12th, 2024. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. 2024. To yours. I had died in May 2026. My lungs pulled in a ragged, deep breath as the impossible reality washed over me. I wasn't dead. The universe, in all its twisted, mysterious glory, had ripped me back through the fabric of time. I had been reborn. "Morning, sleepyhead," a voice called out. I flinched, my entire body going rigid. The bathroom door swung open, and Liam walked out. He was drying his wet, dark hair with a towel wrapped low around his waist. He looked healthy, vibrant, and devastatingly handsome. The exact way he looked before the guilt of my murder had forced him to start drinking heavily in my final days. "You're up early," he said, tossing the towel onto a velvet chair and walking toward the bed. He leaned in to kiss my forehead. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to claw his eyes out. The memory of his lips on Maya's hair burned in my mind. But survival is a powerful instinct. I forced my muscles to relax. I forced the corners of my mouth to curl upward. I had a strange dream. I whispered, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. It was so strong, so clear. "A nightmare?" he asked, sitting on the edge of the bed, trailing a hand down my arm. The touch made my skin crawl. "Something like that," I replied, pulling the duvet up slightly to create a barrier between us. "What's on the agenda for today?" "Have you forgotten?" Liam chuckled a sound that used to make my heart flutter. "It's Maya's birthday dinner tonight. We're meeting her at Le Bernardin at 8. I already ordered that diamond tennis bracelet you suggested we get her." Maya's birthday. The memory hit me like a freight train. May 12th, 2024. This was the exact day Liam and Maya had officially started their affair. In my previous life, I had felt sick that evening and stayed home, insisting Liam take Maya out to celebrate so her night wouldn't be ruined. They had come home at 2 a.m., laughing, smelling of expensive wine and sex. I had been too naive to notice the smudged lipstick or the way Liam couldn't look me in the eye the next morning. Right. I smiled, a cold, dead thing that didn't reach my eyes. Maya's birthday. I wouldn't miss it for the world. The rest of the day was a blur of calculated movements. I didn't act erratically. I didn't cry. I was entirely consumed by a chilling, absolute calm. The old Chloe, the sweet, trusting, passive heiress who just wanted a happy family, had died on that hospital bed. The woman inhabiting this body now was an apex predator. My first stop was to see Arthur Sterling. No Arthur Kensington, my father's old corporate attorney. I sat in his mahogany-paneled office on Wall Street and gave him a set of instructions that made the seasoned lawyer raise his grey eyebrows. You want to quietly transfer the majority of your liquid assets into offshore trusts and restructure the ownership of Liam's architectural firm, Arthur asked, adjusting his glasses. "Chloe, you essentially funded his firm. If you pull the structural rug out from under him, he won't be able to make a single executive decision without your signature. Are you anticipating a divorce?" "I'm anticipating a war, Arthur," I said, smoothly sipping my sparkling water. "I need ironclad NDAs, and I need private investigators monitoring Liam's personal accounts, specifically any purchases related to my sister Maya." Arthur didn't ask questions. He simply nodded. "Consider it done." By 7:30 that evening, I was standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling mirror in my dressing room. In my past life, I dressed conservatively, always trying to make Liam shine brighter. Tonight, I pulled out a vintage blood-red Alexander McQueen slip dress that clung to my curves like a second skin. I paired it with diamond drop earrings and a bold crimson lip. When I walked into the living room, Liam actually dropped his keys. "Wow!" He breathed, his eyes scanning me up and down with a sudden possessive hunger. "You look incredible. I thought you said you were going to wear the navy pantsuit." "I changed my mind," I said, grabbing my clutch. "Let's go." We don't want to keep the birthday girl waiting." When we arrived at Le Bernardin, Maya was already seated at our private booth. She looked exactly as I remembered, doe-eyed, petite, wearing a white lace dress that made her look like a damn angel. When she saw us, she leapt up. "Liam, Chloe!" she squealed, hugging me first. I had to hold my breath to keep from gagging at the smell of her floral perfume. Then she turned to Liam, and the hug lingered for 3 seconds too long. I watched his hand press firmly against the small of her back. "Happy birthday, Maya," I said, sliding into the booth across from them. I intentionally took the seat that forced them to sit together. I wanted to watch them squirm. I wanted to see the cracks. Dinner was a masterclass in psychological torture. I played the attentive sister, watching closely as their knees brushed under the table. I saw the lingering glances. I saw Maya intentionally drop her napkin, brushing her hand against Liam's thigh as she retrieved it. "So, Liam," I started casually twirling my wine glass. "How is the pitch for the coal industries contract coming along? That's $1 billion development. It could make or break the firm this year." Liam stiffened, pulling his hand out from under the table. It's good. Harrison Cole is a tough man to read. He's notoriously private. He's hosting a charity gala this weekend, and I'm hoping to corner him there to talk business." Harrison Cole. The name echoed in my mind. In my past life, Liam had lost that contract. Harrison Cole had seen right through Liam's superficial charm and rejected his proposal, which sent Liam into a financial spiral. A spiral I had bailed him out of using my inheritance. "Not this time." "I'm sure you'll impress him," Maya chimed in, looking at Liam with absolute adoration. "You're the most brilliant architect in New York. Harrison Cole would be a fool not to hire you." I smiled sweetly. "Maya's right, darling. You are so good at selling fantasies." Liam blinked, a flash of uncertainty crossing his face, but before he could dissect my words, the waiter arrived with the cake. Saturday night arrived in a storm of flashing cameras and black tie elegance. The Waldorf Astoria Grand Ballroom was draped in midnight blue velvet and dripping with crystal chandeliers. The coal industry's charity gala was the event of the season. Liam was a nervous wreck. He kept adjusting his bow tie, his eyes darting around the room looking for Harrison. Maya, of course, had somehow managed to score an invitation as my +1, while Liam was busy networking. "There he is," Liam muttered, pointing toward the VIP lounge area. Harrison Cole was not what you expected when you heard the word billionaire. He wasn't old, and he wasn't overly polished. He stood at an imposing 6'3", with sharp, aristocratic features, piercing steel-grey eyes, and dark hair that looked slightly tousled. He exuded an aura of dangerous power. Men parted ways for him, and women stared openly. "I'm going to go make my introduction," Liam said, smoothing his jacket. "You two stay here. Don't interfere, Chloe. I need this to be professional." He practically ran toward the VIP section. I watched him go, feeling nothing but contempt. "He's so driven." Maya sighed wistfully next to me, sipping her champagne. "Isn't he?" I replied dryly. "Excuse me, Maya. I need a real drink." I didn't head to the bar. I bypassed the crowds and slipped onto the outdoor terrace, needing a moment of fresh air away from the suffocating hypocrisy. The night air was cool, the city skyline glowing beautifully against the dark canvas. I leaned against the stone balustrade, closing my eyes, letting the breeze cool my face. Most people come to my galas to be seen, not to hide, a deep, gravelly voice said from the shadows. I turned. Stepping out of the dim light was Harrison Cole himself. Up close, his presence was even more overwhelming. He held a glass of amber liquid, his eyes locked onto mine, with an intensity that made my breath catch. "I'm not hiding, Mr. Cole," I said smoothly, straightening my posture. "I'm just enjoying the view. The inside is a bit too desperate for my taste." A slow, genuine smirk played on his lips. Desperate. That's a good word for it. "You're Chloe, aren't you, Liam's wife?" "I am," I said, stepping slightly closer. I didn't cower under his gaze. I held it, but tonight I'd prefer to just be Chloe. Harrison tilted his head, studying me like a fascinating puzzle. "Your husband cornered me inside, pitched me his skyline project. It lacked soul. But looking at you, I'm wondering if he's just keeping all the fire hidden at home." "My husband has a habit of neglecting the things that hold the most value," I fired back effortlessly. Harrison let out a low, rich laugh. He stepped forward, closing the distance between us until I could smell the bergamot and cedarwood on his skin. He reached out his long fingers, gently brushing a stray lock of hair behind my ear. The touch sent an electric shock straight down my spine. It wasn't predatory. It was fiercely intimate, as if we shared a secret. Suddenly, the terrace doors banged open. "Chloe, what are you—" Liam froze. He stood in the doorway, Maya trailing right behind him. His eyes widened, locking onto Harrison's hand, still lingering near my jawline. For a man who had spent the last week sneaking into my sister's bed, the look on Liam's face was utterly priceless. It was pure, unadulterated, possessive rage. His face flushed crimson, his jaw clenching so hard I thought his teeth might crack. "Mr. Cole," Liam choked out, stepping onto the terrace, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. "I see you've met my wife." Harrison didn't flinch. He didn't step back. He slowly lowered his hand, his eyes never leaving mine, a predator recognizing that the hunt had just begun. "I have," Harrison said softly, a dangerous edge to his voice. "And I must say, Liam, she is entirely out of your league." Silence hung heavy on the terrace, thick and suffocating. Liam's chest heaved under his tailored tuxedo, his eyes darting frantically between Harrison and me. For a man accustomed to being the smartest, most attractive person in any room, watching a billionaire alpha like Harrison Cole effortlessly claim his territory was a shock to his system. "League," Liam scoffed, though his voice trembled with a fragile bravado. "She's my wife, Cole. Let's go, Chloe. We're leaving." He reached out to grab my wrist. Before his fingers could even brush my skin, Harrison shifted his broad shoulders, blocking Liam's path. It wasn't a violent movement, but it carried the lethal grace of a predator, warning a scavenger to back off. "I don't believe Chloe said she was finished with her drink," Harrison murmured, his voice dangerously low. "And where I come from, gentlemen don't lay hands on women who don't want to be touched." Maya, sensing the catastrophic shift in dynamics, grabbed Liam's forearm. "Liam, please, people are starting to stare. Let's just go inside. Chloe can follow us when she's ready." Liam glared at Harrison, then at me. The betrayal he thought he saw in my eyes was merely a reflection of his own guilt. "5 minutes, Chloe." He spat before turning on his heel and storming back into the ballroom, dragging a very flustered Maya behind him. Once the doors clicked shut, Harrison turned back to me, the intense glare dissolving into a look of genuine amusement. "Your husband has the temperament of a spoiled toddler and the strategic foresight of a brick. Why are you with him?" "A temporary lapse in judgment," I replied smoothly, setting my empty champagne flute on the stone railing. "One I am actively correcting." Harrison stepped closer, invading my personal space in a way that made my pulse race for entirely different reasons than anger. "I know who you are, Chloe. I know your father was Richard Kensington, and I know you bankroll that pathetic excuse for an architectural firm. What I don't know is why you are playing this little game tonight." "It's not a game," I whispered, looking up into his piercing grey eyes. "It's an execution, and I could use a willing executioner. Give Liam the coal industries contract." Harrison's eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me, the man just tried to posture like a wounded animal, and you want me to hand him a billion-dollar development. I want you to give him the contract with a very specific financial stipulation." I corrected, a wicked smile playing on my lips. "A clause requiring him to put up his personal equity and the firm's assets as collateral against project delays. I will ensure he fails. When he defaults, you foreclose on the firm and I buy it back from you through a blind proxy for pennies on the dollar." Harrison stared at me, a slow, dark grin spreading across his handsome face. He raised his glass in a mock toast. "You are utterly terrifying, Mrs. Kensington. I accept your terms." The following weeks were a masterclass in psychological warfare. At home, Liam became erratic, paranoid, and obsessively jealous. He started checking my phone, questioning where I had been, and demanding to know why Harrison Cole had suddenly started calling the house line to discuss business. Every time Liam saw me texting, his jaw would clench. Every time I dressed up to go to a charity luncheon, he would interrogate me about my guest list. The irony was exquisite. The man who was slipping into my sister's bed 3 times a week was losing his mind over a phantom affair he thought I was having with a billionaire. Maya, meanwhile, grew increasingly bold. She started leaving her things in my home, a tube of lipstick on the bathroom counter, a silk scarf draped over the sofa. She wanted me to find out. She wanted the confrontation, so Liam would be forced to choose. I gave them enough rope to hang themselves twice over. Behind the scenes, Arthur, my lawyer, worked flawlessly. He moved my assets, locked down the trusts, and drafted the proxy agreements with Harrison. The trap was set. Liam, blinded by greed and desperation to prove he was better than Harrison, eagerly signed the coal industry's contract. He didn't even read the fine print. More importantly, because I had restructured his firm, he needed my signature for the collateral clause. He didn't ask for it. He forged it. Just as I knew he would. Friday, June 28th, the night of Liam's celebratory launch party for the coal industries project. He rented out the rooftop of the Standard Hotel, inviting every elite developer, architect, and socialite in Manhattan. He wanted to parade his success. He wanted to show the world and me that he was a king. I arrived an hour late, wearing a custom backless emerald gown that clung to my body like liquid glass. When I stepped out of the private elevator, the rooftop buzzed with the sound of clinking glasses and jazz music. I spotted them immediately near the ice sculpture. Liam and Maya. She was wearing my mother's vintage diamond necklace, the one I had explicitly told Liam was locked in the safe. He had given it to her. "Chloe, finally," Liam said loudly as I approached, wrapping a proprietary arm around my waist, trying to play the loving husband for the cameras. "Everyone is asking for you." "I was detained," I said smoothly, stepping out of his grip. "By what?" Liam snapped his voice, dropping an octave as his jealousy flared. "By me!" A booming voice echoed from the elevator bank. The music seemed to halt. The crowd parted as Harrison Cole walked onto the rooftop. He looked devastating in a charcoal bespoke suit, his presence immediately sucking the air out of Liam's lungs. Harrison didn't look at the crowd. He walked straight to me and handed me a thick manila folder. "The documents you requested, Chloe," Harrison said loud enough for the VIP section to hear. Liam's face flushed an ugly shade of purple. What the hell is this, Cole? You show up to my party late and start handing my wife paperwork, back off. Your party. I laughed a sharp, cold sound, that echoed across the rooftop. "Liam, darling, you don't own anything here. In fact, as of 5 minutes ago, you don't own your firm either." The surrounding guests fell dead silent. Whispers broke out. Maya stepped forward, her eyes darting nervously. "Chloe, what are you talking about? Stop embarrassing him, you're ruining the night." "Oh, sweet innocent Maya," I sneered, turning my gaze to my sister. "You can keep the used husband, but I'll need my mother's necklace back. Take it off. Now." Maya gasped, her hand flying to her throat. "Liam gave this to me." "Liam stole it," I corrected sharply. I unzipped the manila folder and pulled out a stack of 8 by 10 glossy photographs. I didn't hand them to Liam. I tossed them into the air like confetti. Dozens of pictures rained down on the rooftop. Liam and Maya entering a cheap motel. Liam kissing Maya in his car. Maya straddling Liam on the couch in my own living room. The guests gasped, stepping back in horror as they looked at the undeniable proof of the affair. "Chloe, wait, I can explain." Liam stammered, his face draining of all color as he scrambled to pick up the photos. "You don't need to explain the affair, Liam. I've known for months," I said, my voice projecting with icy authority. "What you do need to explain to the federal authorities is why you forged my signature on a $10 million collateral lien for the coal industry's contract." Liam froze, dropping the photos. "What?" Harrison stepped forward, slipping his hands into his pockets. "You breached the contract timeline yesterday, Liam. As per the clause you signed, Coal Industries called in the collateral. But since you forged your wife's signature, the collateral is void, making you personally liable for $50 million in damages." "Oh, and fraud." No, that's impossible. I have time." "We haven't even started the build," Liam yelled, ticker tearing through his voice. He lunged toward Harrison, but Harrison's security detail materialized out of nowhere, shoving Liam back so hard he crashed into a cocktail table. Glasses shattered everywhere. "You set me up," Liam screamed, spit flying from his lips. He looked like a madman, his tailored suit stained with spilled wine, his hair wild. He looked at me, his eyes wide with a manic, desperate disbelief. "You planned this? You and him? You're sleeping with him, aren't you?" I walked over to where Liam was kneeling on the wet floor. I crouched down so only he could hear me. "You poisoned me, Liam. In another life, you and Maya watched me die in a hospital bed while you plotted to steal my money. Consider this my resurrection." Liam stared at me, his eyes rolling back in pure, unadulterated terror. He didn't understand the words, but he felt the truth of them. His mind snapped. He began to sob hysterically, clawing at his own hair. "I love you, Chloe. Please, I have nothing. Maya means nothing to me. She was just a mistake." "Liam, how could you say that?" Maya shrieked, tears streaming down her face. She reached for him, but Liam violently shoved her away. "Get away from me, you stupid girl! You ruined my life!" he screamed at her. Maya staggered back, finally seeing the monster she had helped create. She ripped the diamond necklace off and threw it on the ground, running toward the exit in humiliating defeat. I stood up, brushing a speck of dust off my gown. "Arthur is filing the divorce papers tomorrow. The police are waiting in the lobby for the forgery charges. Enjoy your new life, Liam." I turned my back on the pathetic sobbing mess of a man I once called my husband. Harrison offered me his arm. I took it, and as we walked toward the private elevator, Harrison leaned down and pressed a warm, lingering kiss to my lips right in front of Liam. A guttural, agonizing scream of pure insanity ripped from Liam's throat as the elevator doors slid shut, sealing his fate and opening my new world. Karma never misses a deadline, especially when you come back from the dead to deliver it yourself. Watching Liam lose his mind, his money and his mistress in one night, was the ultimate revenge. Have you ever dealt with a betrayal so deep it changed who you were? Tell me your survival stories in the comments below. If you loved this dramatic tale of rebirth and payback, don't forget to hit that like button, share with your friends who love a good revenge story, and subscribe for more crazy real-life dramas.